And we're live on YouTube. Hello and
Yes.
welcome to the 60th episode of Game Theory Gang. I'm your host, Maddie Allen, with ChrispyMan of HexFire.io and Toby1 Hexobi. Welcome.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello,
Happy
hello.
to be here as always.
I've got my celebration cigar ready to go. Any
Right.
minute now, Pulse Chain will launch, and I will light this cigar,
Yes.
or I'll light it, or I might just light it anyways.
You're
I
a
have my
cigar guy.
celebration Trezor right here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got mine ready to go.
That's
I'm going to plug it in when Pulse Chain goes live.
Right.
Go.
Well, you can save yourself a few minutes. You can go ahead and get it set up and get your seed word and everything established. And you never know how quick you're going to have to move when mainnet launches.
I'm ready. I'm ready to take things slow and not get hacked.
Right.
And not click on any wrong links. And that's a really important thing that we can tell our viewers. Hit the like and subscribe button if you like the idea of only listening to Richard Hartwin on Twitter, and only t.me/hex news for your updates about Pulse Chain, and pulsechain.com, of course.
Do you guys remember? I think it was probably the most relentless that it was is when Pulse Sacrifice was happening, but all of the scam links and all of the stuff that just started coming out of the woodwork, because I know we were just me and Papa and the rest of the admins were just man, it was nonstop double time, trying to safeguard people against, it's no, it's Pulse isn't even a token yet. What do you mean you bought it? It's just all the crazy scams. So it's you got to be ever diligent. And then whenever there's a big shift in the ecosystem like this, something new's actually coming out, like you said, Maddie, it's Richard even did when Hex launched and when the Sacrifice launched. It's he did it on a live stream, he did it on his Telegram, he did it on his Twitter, and those are the only sources that you should trust. It's even if it's a streamer you've seen forever and they're sharing the link, it's nah. It's I would go to the source, and not that I don't trust many people in this community, but they could make a mistake, and if you're going to get it from the source, you're much less likely to do something that could be very, very costly.
Yes.
100%. 100%. You're right.
I'm tweeting this out. See if any of my TA fanatics want to come watch.
Look, I was trying to use Ethereum today, and it's a no-go. It's not working. The gas fees are too high. Gwei was over 300 when I was trying to use it. Okay.
No way.
It was just
way. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, Gwei. And I mean, back in the depths of the bear market when Hex was 1.7 cents, I was using Ethereum every day. I was using it every day. I mean, that's how programmable money and cryptocurrency should be. It's you don't have these outages at your bank where they're going to charge you $80 to use the ATM, and you're going to come back in weeks or months or years from now to be able to use your money. That's no way to run an alternative.
Oh, hey, speaking of banks, I finally hit the last straw with my institution, apparently. So I tried to do a wire last week. I'm doing at least every 2 weeks I'll be doing a wire. I mean, for years now. So I mean, it's pretty obvious I'm that guy. I'm the guy coming into wire to Coinbase, right?
You're the wire guy.
Everybody there knows about Hex, because every time I sit with someone new, I make sure they get taught about it, right?
Yes.
Including the branch manager. And
yes.
So it was a guy I hadn't seen before. He initiated the wire, and then it was late in the day. It was after 4 o'clock, so I knew it wouldn't go till the next day. I called to check because it's not in my Coinbase yet. I'm eager to get it over to add to my dry powder bag and get my limits set like I always do to buy some dips. And it wasn't in Coinbase. So I call him up and I'm like, hey, it's my, and it was not a small wire. It was one of the bigger ones I've done in a while. And I'm like, yeah, my wire's not hit yet. I was just curious, if there was a hang up or whatever. And he was like, well, hang on just 1 second. Comes back and he goes, yeah, we can't do it. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do it? I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, there's 2x of what I'm sending in that checking account. So it's I got double the amount of funds I need. So he goes, it's the risk assessment department just saw some issues. So they decided that we can't do this. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm like, so what's the issue? I said, is it a Coinbase issue? I'm like, I checked my account. It's like, I know you personally aren't familiar with me, but look at my account. You can see 10 days ago, I just did a wire and plenty before that. And he goes, no, he was like, I don't, we can't really tell specifically what it is, but we just can't do that. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, if I can't use the full functionality of this account, I'm like, how about you just wire it to another local bank that I have a checking account at, and I'll just do my business there. And, not shitty about it, but just like, if you're telling me I can no longer use this particular service where I have to pay them $35 a pop when I do it anyhow, I'm like, I'll just do all my stuff in one spot and not you. And so he's like, oh no, I can't wire.
So that's what I'm going to be saying to Ethereum when Pulse Chain comes out later today or tomorrow. I'm going to be saying, sorry, sir.
Yep.
Or ma'am, we
don't
are not doing business with you anymore because you don't work. And this is a service, being able to send and swap my money and click buttons on DeFi. Those are things that I require.
Yep. And then I asked him to do that. He said he couldn't send it. And this is the thing where I got a little nervous. Like, did they freeze my account? Because I've heard of that occurring, right? If you're dealing with crypto exchanges and whatnot. And I said, well, I'll just send it to the other bank. He goes, well, we can't do that either. And I'm like, so is my account frozen? And he goes, no. And I said, but I just can't wire it anywhere. And he goes, no. And I said, okay. I'm like, well, if you want to retain my business, you could have a manager or somebody call me. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and come get a cashier's check for the bulk of my proceeds and start changing my auto deducts to another bank. And they never even called me. And then I stopped in because there's like one process that you had to do with paper. Like, you couldn't do it online. You couldn't do it over the phone. It's like to change an auto bill pay thing. So I take that in, and then my mom called me, and my dad was being taken to the hospital. So obviously that took a priority. Luckily, dad's fine.
Yeah.
Got him all checked out. Everything's good. But yeah, super stressful though. And when they start messing with your money at the bank like that, and I mean, I know you had problems, Maddie, and I've heard other people.
That's correct.
It's like, screw
the SEC closed my bank account.
It's unbelievable, dude. It's just crazy shit like that.
Talk about overreach.
Well, you had time to pull your funds though, right? You weren't like frozen immediately?
Not frozen.
Okay, cool.
But, those were my homies. Like, I onboarded them. I was their favorite. Like, they had Hex to the Future magnets. That's the only thing they had in their workstations.
No way.
Yeah. But look, it's fine because this is all it takes is voting with your feet, voting with your bank account, moving your funds. If they don't want to do business, if their risk department doesn't understand what a Coinbase is, then you're going to be able to go to the next place that is going to understand that. And I mean, at the end of the day, so I was thinking of, I was even thinking earlier today about Operation Choke Point, and I think it's right for us to be upset about the banking system not doing its basic functions. I also think that if we look at like Operation Choke Point 1.0, it wasn't completely successful. I know that there were like different branches of that, but one example was they tried to shut down the banking relationships between marijuana vendors at the state level and like the federal banking system. And it was, they didn't stop people from getting recreational and medicinal cannabis. Like, there's more of that going on now than ever because it's legal in many states, and because people are going off of what they believe to be the people are standing up for what they believe in. And I think that's going to happen with crypto too. But that doesn't mean we can just sit back, right? It means like we all have to do our part. So
well, it's like on a personal level, it's like I feel like these are steps, these are examples of the steps. It's all going toward DeFi. You're seeing the shortcomings of CeFi and traditional finance. And then, with Ethereum, being so absolutely ridiculous with the gas fees and whatnot as of late, and only likely to get worse, it seems to me like all of this is perfect timing for Pulse Chain to kind of splash onto the scene and let people see that not only is there something where you maintain your financial sovereignty, take control of your own finances, and be able to transact cheaply and quickly. I mean, it seems like serendipitous that, you know, things are where they are. I mean, I grumbled as much as anyone did as far as like how long things were taking, but it was more than just, not that I was anxious to sell or anything like that. I was just excited for it to happen. But I think it's playing out perfectly. Timing, bull market, all that, you know, I can't wait. I think it's going to be crazy.
ChrispyMan?
Well, I think it's kind of disgusting, right? But I think that they can do that. But of course they can. We already know they can do it, and are able to stop us from doing things. But it went through my mind a bunch of times when I first did my first wire. I went down to the local bank, and spoke to the manager there, and had a big discussion about, so what can I do? I don't know what the rules are. What can I do?
Yeah.
Now I assume I can. Listen, if I need to go buy a house and they give me a loan, I know I get a check. If I go down to the auto place and I buy a car and I apply for a loan from them, I go to the bank, I pick up the check, right? I had no idea what would happen with crypto, so I had to ask them, and they basically said everything that we know, right? Generally, there's no problem sending anything anywhere unless it gets flagged. Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just kind of like waiting for the potential that happens. So it is important. And I think we all learn this, to have multiple sources or bank accounts, that you can work with.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know how true this is, but I actually had the regional manager. I've reached out to him. So I sleuthed that. The bank manager would not give me his contact info. So that was infuriating as well. But, I'm pretty crafty. So I got his contact info, and he reached out to me. He was very apologetic with how it had all gone. And now whether this is bullshit or not, I don't know. But he said there has been an uptick with Coinbase scams in particular, because anyone that's wired to Coinbase, when you do a Coinbase wire, you don't have your name on it. The recipient of the wire is Coinbase, and then they have your account number and then the ABA number of their bank. So apparently people have been getting in various kinds of scams where it's like, hey, it's like, I can help you get some Bitcoin, send your money to this Coinbase account, and Coinbase is legit, right? But it's not an account that got set up for, the old guy that talked to the young guy that told him to do it. And then all of a sudden the old guy's back at the bank saying, hey, I sent my money to Coinbase and it's not in my Coinbase account. And, now I want my money back. So whether or not that's true or he's just covering, I don't know. But, it's
that's
those kind of scams certainly happen, I'm sure.
So let's, I know we jumped into the ETH is broken and the banking system is broken apart, but let's also bring attention to the fact that it looks like Pulse Chain is getting ready to launch in hours or something.
Did it launch?
That's what the title of the show is. Are we live? On Pulse Chain, not just on YouTube, right?
And we're live.
That's right. That's what everybody's going to be saying in their heads and screaming from the rooftops once we get this low fee situation figured out. The reason for Pulse Chain is to combat exactly what is wrong with Ethereum today, that it cannot handle the transactions that it was meant to handle because they got caught up being a store of value instead of a programmable money. And that's just fine because Pulse Chain solves this. And that's why Pulse Chain is really going to, I think, provide an invaluable service to the world.
Well, how come we're talking about this? But these are important things, right? I mean, Ethereum failed, right? We're waiting for Pulse Chain launch. How come nobody's talking about Bitcoin failing? I mean, isn't this like over the top news? I'm just thinking about it as you say. I mean, like the fact that you can't send transactions on Bitcoin and people put tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in. Well, that doesn't come up at all.
Didn't Binance stop trading temporarily or stop withdrawals? I can't recall.
I'm so glad you guys brought this up because I've been keeping a beat on all this. Basically, Bitcoin's transaction pool of things that have not been processed, it reached over 400,000 transactions that were stuck, and this is because the fees spiked up for the first time since 2017 to a new all-time high on Bitcoin. And sure, you could still get a Bitcoin transaction through for $20 or so. I remember when I got into Bitcoin in 2017, and I paid one of the highest transaction fees at the time that it ever existed to send money to Bitmain to buy Bitcoin miners to sell them on eBay. And I was shocked at the $75 fee that I was paying, $100 fee I was paying to just send Bitcoin. And so Eric Wall, love him or hate him, he has been one voice in Bitcoin that's been reporting on exactly why the fees have spiked so much. Part of what we understand is that the Bitcoiners have, that some Bitcoiners have started launching something that they call BEP20 coins, or BIP20, which is an incorrect use of the term. They're trying to talk about ERC20 tokens. They're calling them like BRC or whatever they're calling them, -20. But -20 is that's the number of the Ethereum protocol proposal. And so it's really silly. Like, they're making themselves kind of look stupid when they're calling it that. But that's the name of being able to launch a token on top of Bitcoin using the Taproot upgrade that had happened. And so Bitcoiners are freaking out and deciding whether they want to fork the chain, because this shows how it can't be used for exactly what they thought the use would be limited to.
Isn't that basically? Isn't that kind of one of the things that Richard was?
It is
why he split from the Bitcoin community, because it's like he was trying to get some changes in place that made it more viable, and just
the block war.
Hey, do you remember those hashtags that said Richard was right? Have you seen that? Right, because how I heard it explained, somebody posted in the chat here too. Ivan's been covering it, but what I basically heard was they couldn't foresee that the problem would happen, and they can't test the code because it's too spaghetti-like. What does that sound like? Sounds like a lot about what Richard's been saying for a long time, is that you don't want to be doing things there.
Absolutely. And so of course, before the BRC20 launching of tokens on top of Bitcoin, which is the way that it works technically, is it's like making a new NFT every time you're updating the balance of a token. And it may or may not be similar to like the ordinal thing. So the ordinal thing is where they take bits, like they take Satoshis and line them up so that it encodes an image, basically. And so, yeah, it's really interesting how people out there, they've innovated, they've invented ways to build stuff on top of Bitcoin. And this is what what part of the market wants. Now, the other thing that you want to note about this historic moment in Bitcoin that's happening right now, on the heels of this historic moment in Pulse Chain, right, launching. The other thing that you want to understand is that part of the reason this is such a debate in Bitcoin is because this is proof of how Bitcoin could pay for its security after the inflation rewards go away. And so we know that Bitcoin every 4 years has a halvening, and it halves the number of Bitcoins that are paid to miners to secure the network, to stop double spends. And there was always a debate of people wondering, will tipping and the transaction volume and everything be enough to be the block subsidy when this next halvening happens in a year from now? It's going to drop from, what is it, 6.25 now down to 3 point something. And so that's going to keep cutting in half every 4 years. This traffic jam in the Bitcoin blockchain right now that's causing high fees there too, is the first time that the transaction fees have paid more than the block rewards ever in the history of Bitcoin.
Really? That's significant.
Yes. So high fees is a problem in the top two networks in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the problem with all the alternative networks is they don't have a system state. Can you imagine?
It's crazy.
Can you imagine how valuable that would be to have a system state ready to go at this
Wait
moment?
a minute. How valuable will that be?
We will soon find out.
Let's find out tonight
will
on
be
Game Theory Gang. Pulse chain is
little-
launching.
1,000x, 10,000x.
Hey, are
I
you
don't
guys
know.
are you guys validating yet, or doing any other cool stuff on testnet? It's like I've continued to play around. I got my validators up and going, and then I had some network issues, and my validators are being slashed. Thank God it's not real money yet. Until I get them sorted later tonight. But
Tonight's show is sponsored by ValidatorStore.com.
right? Yeah.
No,
David's
no,
great,
it's, no,
man.
it's,
I mean, he's
no, it's not sponsored by anybody, but I did
No.
buy one
Correct.
from ValidatorStore.com.
cool. What number did you get?
I didn't get it yet.
Oh, you didn't get it yet. Gotcha.
I'm way down.
Obi-Wan's
the queue.
flexing.
I think. Oh, yeah, I know he's got number
Yeah.
1 or something. I'm
I
like
got
at.
one.
I think I'm I think I'm like 99 or something. Way down the list.
He's
Cool.
cranking them out though, man. And it's like, and he's been super supportive, like, you know, I mean, I don't know how, because I'm sure he's flooded, but responsive to emails and stuff, and making sure everybody's going to be ready to rock when the. When
Well,
we go live.
I saw him in person. I got to pick his
Oh
brain. Saturday.
yeah, I saw
Yeah.
I saw that picture on Twitter. That was cool.
Yeah. Went to a nice vegan restaurant.
Nice.
And veganed out for a little bit. Yeah. Had my Impossible burger. It was impossible.
Impossible to eat.
It was impossible to eat. and my buffalo cauliflower, which tasted awful like buffalo chicken. But maybe because every time I have buffalo chicken, it's really the buffalo seasoning, you know.
Gotcha.
And for those who don't know, that's not buffalo. It's buffalo sauce. So, vegan.
That's awesome that you got to meet up with other Hexicans there, and Dave, the validator himself, and you must have had a good meetup.
The validator. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we have a Hex meetup coming up next week in Miami. I just got the t-shirts yesterday. They rock. I have no idea how I made such awesome t-shirts. I'm super pumped about this. There's going to be 5,000 to 10,000 people there at the Bitcoin conference who are all super enthusiastic about cryptocurrency. There's going to be 70 Hexicans meeting up in person. And then on top of that, I'm going to do a 48-hour live stream from my YouTube studio that I'm setting up across the street from the Bitcoin conference entrance.
Oh, nice.
And
Sweet.
So much more. So, this is perfect timing. It's going to be May 18th to 20th. I'm still way behind on getting everybody invited, but I want everybody who's spoken at a Hex conference before to have like an hour of their own time to be able to check in with everybody who's at the meetup, and then, of course, be having a worldwide event. So
Very, very cool, man. I'm stoked. It's like as I've shared on Twitter, it's like my folks are old. They're like, they're, well, old that could sound bad, but they're up there, right? They're octogenarians. They're both Hexicans, by the way, and
hell yeah.
Pulse and Pulse X sacrificers. So I'm proud to say that I've onboarded them, and they're excited to see their balances coming back alive since January. On Staker, the new updated Staker, which is pretty cool, I think. But anyhow, Dad had some problems post-COVID, and but he is improving greatly. Thank you for all the continued prayers out there. I believe in the power of prayer and positive intention and things, and I think that has helped. So hopefully he will continue. But because of that, it's like I am waiting. So I'm gonna either drive down last minute or like see if I can get a plane ticket that's not a fortune waiting that long. But I'm really hoping to be there in person. So that's my goal.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then if not, of course, it's like I'd be happy to participate with the live stream. But listen, man, I need some sunshine. I was telling Maddie in the green room, he looked like he had a tan. And it's
I decreased my lighting for the event.
I'm so pasty white.
And of course, I'm not at liberty to say everybody who's come in for OPSEC reasons, but we do know that Funding Jim and Westcott Crypto will both be there.
Nice.
So, really cool. Really cool.
Cool.
So we have our Hexpo Miami meetup coming up next week. There will be an online event that includes everybody. And I see somebody in the comments saying that, maybe Pulse Chain will release by then. And it's like, we think Pulse Chain is going to release tonight or tomorrow. Can we review the evidence of what makes us think that? Or maybe I shouldn't speak for you guys. When pulse chain, sirs?
Man,
When
I don't
pulse
know.
change, sir?
I-
May I have
two-
another?
2 more Mays. No, not 2 more years. I couldn't handle it. I don't know, man. It's like, it's hard to say. I mean, there's so much speculation out there. It's like, I mean, I feel like it could be any moment. I really feel like, I mean, obviously, we're closer than ever. You know,
They
and now we're
uploaded the
closer.
files, right? The
Right.
files are uploaded.
For the sacrifice, right? The sacrifice balances. That's what I heard.
Yeah. And
That's
Richard's tweet the other day, he was like, I hope you're ready. I hope you practiced. I hope you did this and this and this.
Yep.
2 more weeks. 2 more weeks.
I don't know,
more
man. I
weeks.
mean, I think it could be this week. It's like I have a weird feeling if there was any timing involved at all, that he would try to do it on a weekend, just so people are not like stuck at work when it launches, and then they're like wanting to kind of like get on there and look around and do whatever. I think just for the buzz of it within the community, especially and beyond, I just feel like if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on a weekend. So maybe this coming weekend. Be pretty wild.
I mean, if 5 minutes in, everybody's retired, what do you have to be at work for?
Yeah, that's true too, right? Or when I mean, that would be hilarious. I mean, I wonder if anybody's gonna like live coverage of themselves, like when it launches, and like, you know, storm into their boss's office. I'm like, I'm out of here.
May 20th. May 20th is going to launch.
May 20th.
20th.
Okay. May 20th, he says, the day of the end of the Hexpo. That would be pretty exciting.
Well, but didn't one of the pulse chain devs like click a button that merged an approval request or something like
See,
that?
you have trick questions. You already know all the answers.
Well, but what does it mean?
Right.
Like,
What, Maddie? What does it mean?
I don't know.
Did the snap?
I
not
don't
a-
know what it means either. It
I'm
means
not
it's
a
approved. You know, we'll take it at what it's worth. It means it's approved.
Hmm.
That could, yeah.
Yeah,
What,
I'm not
what does
a
that mean?
GitLab
Richard
hub.
he could have his finger hovering
Power
over the
user.
button to go live, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we
So what
have
do you-
323 people watching right now. Hit the
Sweet.
like and subscribe button if you want to
Hit the
see
like and
Pulse
subscribe.
come online sooner rather than later.
No doubt.
Bell
So I know
button
this is a
all.
common question on Twitter, which I think is kind of interesting to hear the different responses. But it's like, what are you guys going to do? Like when it launches, like, do you have a plan?
Yes.
All right, Maddie, go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to breathe, and then I'm going to retweet what Richard has put out, and then I'm going to turn on the live stream where he's telling us don't click on the scams. Okay. Then I'm going to slowly move my finger towards my addresses because I want to move those funds around to secure them. And so I'm going to do a test transaction before I send like my entire SAC balance.
Right.
That's important.
Indeed.
And yeah, I'm going to just, I think the difference between doing something in the first 5 minutes and the first, 5 days is not going to be a big difference for that kind of thing. Cause I don't think my security is compromised or anything like that. But yeah, I'm going to be making sure that happens. Another thing I'm going to be on the lookout for is if there's an initial liquidity ratio, like there was on testnet v4, I'm going to take a tiny little bit and maybe balance out my two sacrifices because I sacrificed more for Pulse Chain than Pulse X. So I'd be keen for a balance there.
Right on.
But I'm not going to do any like ink farming. I'm not going to do anything in that regard. So my timing is going to be more based on seeing if there's like a 1-to-1 ratio of Pulse and Pulse X starting off, because on testnet v4 it like quickly moved from 1-to-1 to 1-to-3, where it took more pulse X to get per pulse. And,
Well, here's a question for you, Matty. It's like I know that there had been discussions on this in Pulse Plan of like where to start it for when he was talking about the ratio between Pulse and Pulse X. So you'll have to refresh my memory. Did they start at 1-to-1 and then it quickly became 3-to-1?
So even though everything in Pulse Plan is confidential, I would say that my observation of what happened on the testnet V4 when it launched, because I was there like 15 minutes in,
Right.
really, really close to when it happened. I did see a ratio like close to 1-to-1 or close to
Right.
1 to 1.06, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then
That's right.
and then it moved quickly, maybe, in an hour or two, it moved quickly to change, back to 3-to-1. And then there was like low liquidity, which is important.
Yeah.
That's important to know. There was low liquidity in that V4 testnet launch situation. And so I had taken a screenshot that I think it was like one pulse was 10,000 pulse X or something stupid.
Oh wow.
So there was a huge imbalance at the beginning in the liquidity there, which is an interesting way that it could go. We don't know if the OA is going to get involved and create parity right off the bat, maybe later down the line, or not at all. But in a low liquidity situation like that, what is happening is the market is deciding. And so when we say that volatility is a feature, not a bug, we have to warn ourselves that some extreme things could happen if you're not looking at the ratios and thinking deeply, maybe ahead of time, about what type of ratios you would want. Obviously, if there was like an imbalance of that magnitude,
Right.
some whale is eating slippage, and you can be there getting rich off of this crazy ratio that really probably wouldn't have gotten filled in reality. But that's something to keep in mind, is there just because there may be 40,000 people on their computers all at once trying to swinging the price all over the place, 1,000% here and there between these different main pairs. I think that it would be, and you might have failed transactions even though Pulse Chain is operating flawlessly. It's like you could have a problem, you could have a failed transaction because the liquidity pool is too low, because the whales are trying to figure out what to price their coins at.
Right on. Yeah, because I was trying to remember, and thanks for refreshing my memory there. And I know that a lot of, I know Pulse Plan, we try to not talk about any of that stuff in public, but some of it had been disclosed during the debates, like on Twitter. And I was just like, wait a minute, guys, are we supposed to talk about this? So I don't feel too weird about talking about it now. But the reason I brought it up is I kind of wonder if that same thing's going to happen, or now that it's kind of been shown on testnet v3 and on testnet v4 that it's kind of gravitated toward this 1-to-3 ratio. If the automatic market maker / liquidity pool providers, the OA, starts it at 1-to-3, just to prevent that wildness right out of the gate. And then if it's meant, if the market is saying it should be closer back to that 1-to-1, then it'll get itself there. I'm just kind of curious how it's actually going to start.
But the whales could pay for that. Why would the OA do it?
Well, whomever, you know what I mean? It's like whomever.
Yeah.
I just like, where, if it starts way out of line with what we think it's going to end up being, that seems like a very dangerous, that's like a riptide, it's like you don't want to be in those waters right then. I mean, that seems like you got to really kind of be on top of what you're doing, or you're going to get drowned, so I'd be cautious. Crispy, what were you thinking, like, once we launch? Do you have a game plan?
Yeah, but I don't want to move the market by telling you what my plan is.
Wise.
Really, I've done a lot of prep work. I haven't completed all my prep work because I just haven't done it. But I think the very first thing, somebody had said this, is to secure what I have. So I want to look and make sure I got everything that I thought I was going to get and where it was. And then I do have a plan to move, but I want to take it slow to move my balances to a series of wallets. you know, and different underneath different keys. But I want to be very, very careful with that, right? Test,
Yes.
make sure I can do the connection, make sure I have those recorded, make sure that, you know, I'm verifying my numbers. I'm not relying on copy paste. I don't want any weird potential things to happen. So I think the first thing is that, you know, just get everything secured the way I want it to, check it and secure it. I think the next thing would be to really just evaluate the ratios and what looks good. I have a list of all the things I'm interested in ratioing. And so I don't know that I'm going to do any of them.
Right.
Because some of the things I want to do, other people are going to do. And if it's against me, it's against me. So I'm not going to worry about that. I do have a couple things that I might do a liquidity right away on. You know, maybe I'll look at Pulse X. I mean, that's not a big surprise. So I'll look at that, whether I want to do that, and then probably wait for the bridge.
Right on.
You know, just evaluate and wait. I mean, I don't. You know, I'm not technically savvy enough to be running bots or to go attack these, you know, these other dexes and stuff out there and empty them. So.
Right. Well, and I think both of your guys' plans are like I think that's why people come to Maddie's stream. You know what I mean? It's like they want sound advice, like, well, if you want to call it advice, but just, you know, guidance on like, you know, the middle path or like the safest maneuver, because it's
transparency.
Like,
people want transparency,
and plus it's like, you know, I mean, this is
analysis.
Right. You know, and it's like, you know, and you want reasonable suggestions of things to do, you know, because the last thing I ever want to do is make someone overconfident, and because that's when people wreck themselves. So, you know, if you're gonna dabble in anything other than just like the basic bare bones stuff like these guys are talking about, and that's exactly the same stuff I'm doing. It's like I'm gonna get my stuff moved over. I had a couple of my onboards that pooled with me to sacrifice, so I have my spreadsheets all ready to go, so I know what percentage of my pools go to whom. Didn't take any fees. That was just, I figured, you know, raising tide rises all boats, and they felt more comfortable doing that as opposed to some of the community pools that were out there. So I'm going to immediately, as soon as I get my stuff, start getting it over to them. And then with Pulse being so cheap, it's all the more reason to do test transactions. All the more reason to do test transactions, because it's almost free. So just don't go ham moving stuff around. You know, make sure it goes where you wanted it to go. And then for me, the other thing is it's almost reminiscent of the early HEX days where it was beneficial for people to stake early, right? So until Maddie's thing gets going, you know, to me, the best bet on that is validating. And it's like, you know, as I've learned more about it, I was skeptical at first. I was nervous at first. As I've learned more about it, and then, you know, obviously I'm not a paid shill for anybody or anything, but it's like David Feeder's fantastic. It like takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You have all the right equipment, and it's pretty much plug and play. It's got the script for you to get it running. And here's the thing that I think people aren't thinking about. Like, if you want to be an Ethereum validator, it takes you 32 ETH, which is currently what, about almost 60 grand? That's how much you got to have to run one validator. In Pulse, you have to have 32 million Pulse. Now, that sounds like a lot. If you base that on the SAC rate, which is the only number we can really do to try to get an idea of what the price should be. So you're looking at how much was sacrificed and what's the total supply, and divide the two. So the number I've come out with is like 0.000107778. So if you do the math on that, that works out to about $3,400 for 32 million Pulse. So that's not a small amount of money for people, plus the equipment, and I get all that. But if we do a 10x, just a 10x, and someone new coming along, they're going to have to spend $34,000. Now you're talking like trying to be an ETH validator. You're getting up in those numbers. We do 100x, someone's going to have $340,000 to run a single validator. So to me, it seems like a smart, what I'm considering as a smart move is to use a large portion of my Pulse bag and get validators going. And then that way I'm earning yield just like I would be with my early HEX stakes, you know, while everyone else is, you know, utilizing the ecosystem. And then beyond that, it's like I might do kind of what Maddie was saying, because it's like I've got a bigger Pulse bag than Pulse X bag. So to try to even that up a little bit, I don't know if I would look at liquidity providing, assuming that it would kind of swing that way, or just swapping if the opportunity presented itself. But that would be the last thing on my list. It's just kind of like staking and chilling with Hex. It's like I'm going to let it launch, get my pulse to my onboards, and then get my validators going, and then
Yes.
sit back and enjoy the madness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention I have USDC on the side now, and I don't care. All the bullies out there that would tell me, "Oh, you need to put your USDC into this and that to get the free." Like, no, I'm good, man. Like, I'll be all right. Like, I'm balanced out. I got some of this, some of that, And what I'm gonna do with that USDC once Pulse Chain launches here later today or tomorrow or whenever, right? Is I'm going to be looking to see when the bridge opens. That bridge might be opening a couple days later. It might be opening right away. We're not really sure. Right now, there's a message on pulseramp.com that says, it says this message will go away when the bridge is live. Super exciting. And so I'm going to be looking to see what the cheapest asset is to bridge in. It might be that I need to swap my USDC to Ethereum. To bridge in. It might be that I need to swap it to Hex because that's the biggest liquidity pair on the bridge or whatever. It might be that I can't swap anything on Ethereum because the gas fees are too high, like I've noticed today. So and so I'm not saying that this is the best strategy for everybody else, but I'm just saying that's one of several strategies that I'm deploying myself.
Hey, can you rewind a little bit there? And what was the bridge thing that you had mentioned again? Like something like
PulseRamp.com.
PulseRamp. Got it. So on the home page, it'll say this will go away. This message goes away when we launch.
I saw a screenshot on Twitter, so I'm assuming that's where it was.
So pulseramp.com. That's
it should be just linked as a tab off of pulsechain.com. So
right. Got it.
I would always defer to Richard Hart for the official.
Sure. Sure.
Now,
Portal X, will that be viable immediately as well? Because that seems like it's.
I think shortly after launch that'll be available, like hours or days, and that sounds like a cool cross chain swapping thing that
and
that's got a bunch of stuff built into it.
Check it against PulseRamp. Check both, and see how it looks. It's kind of like MetaMask swap and Uniswap.
Yeah, it's like an aggregator.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool. Now there's some debate out there still amongst experts. I heard Hex Tangent go one way on Twitter, and I might make like a counterpoint. Basically, we're not sure if the fixer bot is running right now, if the fork has already happened. This is the situation of a stealth launch, and Tangent was representing the opinion that it's just a fork, and maybe it'll just be public at a certain time, and then it's from the moment of it being public that it's happening. So there's not a quote unquote snapshot that's in the past. And really, I think that the terms that we're using are kind of unprecedented. There's never been a system state fork of Ethereum. There's never been the world's largest airdrop in this format. And so, especially when it comes to the fixer bot. So I'd encourage people to remember that we don't know, and that's okay. And there's a possibility that ever since Richard tweeted the other day, I hope you practiced, and I hope you're ready, and I hope you got everything set. It could have been, I was kind of thinking to myself, maybe that was the moment where the fixer bot started running. I have no info. It's pure speculation on my part. I remember in the early days of Pulse Chain that, that Richard had conceptualized there might be a day or two of fixerbot running, which is basically going in there and adjusting the liquidity copies that were copied over to adjust for the increased supply of Pulse versus Ethereum that is in the LP farms on Uniswap. And so that'll be really interesting to see if that's the case. But then there was also once upon a time a a story of how, for tax purposes, there might be a day or two of only ratio trading between Pulse Chain and PulseX and HEX. And I really haven't heard much about that lately. And I heard somebody even say, how's that even technically possible? And so it might just be that there's ratio trading between everything. All the ERC, or sorry, all the PRC20 copies might be tradable. And then the official bridge will open. It could be that Portal X opens a bridge before Pulse Ramp opens a bridge, but that would be maybe a little bit contentious, because the whole point of not having a bridge for the first day or two is for tax purposes, I believe. Not tax advice.
Right. Yeah, because the whole idea was that it gets airdropped to you at no value. So I think that was part of it. And then
yes,
if there's other bridges that are going to be available prior to Pulse Ramp, I mean, there's no way to really control that, I'd imagine. But I think the original plan was like the bridge would not be open for 24 to 48 hours to kind of give everyone an opportunity to get their stuff situated at zero value prior, other than ratios. But as far as having a USD value, right?
But it could be that the fixer bot actually performs the same function of trading things at zero or near zero.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I'm suspecting that there could be a chance that the fixer bot is running now. Although I have no idea. I just have a sense, and I theoretically am predicting that it would be running a day or two before a public announcement. So this is basically the idea of a theoretical stealth launch that we might be in the middle of.
Yeah, I can't see that. I feel like there's too many. I don't know. I mean, Richard has to be beaming and so proud of what he's done and accomplished. I can't imagine it being like not, banners and parades and party whistles and horns going off. I feel like it's gonna be a hardcore flash.
Well, sure, you're gonna see all that. Sure,
it's gonna be within minutes of it.
But why would you doubt his word?
What do you mean?
In what sense?
Well, Richard said, "You will have no warning."
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying before.
Why doubt it?
He's not going to come on before. I'm saying within minutes of it launching.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be like V4 where you're waiting half a day to hear from Richard that it's real.
But if you're running a process that could cause you to pause and go back and do something, you're not going to make that announcement until it's done. So once he's ready to flip the switch, I don't think you'll see that. But I don't know.
People are pumped. We have 427 people watching at this moment because people are getting the hint on Twitter that Pulse Chain might be hours away.
Sweet. Love it.
Couple things.
Smash the like. Smash the like.
Along with this.
Validate
Maddie,
the
right?
like.
Validate it.
Go for it.
So a lot of people have been waiting to see liquidity change. I've been waiting too. And it occurs to me there's a scenario where liquidity won't change significantly because perhaps everybody who needed to be scared out is scared out already. Right. They're willing to take the risk in order to pick up potentially a ton of HEX and fees post launch.
Yes.
I still believe we'll see some volatility with price, but doesn't appear to be some huge run up. The last little bit of news hasn't really caused significant buying. So maybe we see some sort of truncated jump and then followed by some sort of a dip. I don't know what it looks like, but yeah, I think like a lot of people, I've been able to compartmentalize this for a long time and not think about it, but we're on the verge. I couldn't sleep last night. So.
Wow.
I've had a few nights like that. It's heady times for sure. And then the charts seem to be like, obviously that's kind of been my public focus for my Twitter for a while now, where it's like I do my little daily TA updates, and it's interesting because it's like I think that we're kind of building a base. Like I think there's a lot less people that are willing to risk, outsmarting when we launch by trying to trade. So I think that that's where some of the volatility is kind of chilled out, and we're just kind of doing a little sideways action. But I feel like we're building a good base. If there was any bad news, I mean, we could go down to 5 cents, maybe even 4.5. But with no bad news, and especially with good news, it's like, and I'm not really sure about the liquidity situation because Crispy, just like you, I was kind of anticipating the liquidity getting super thin and then there being some crazy volatility right before launch. And that may or may not occur. I mean, I'm leaning kind of toward not at this point. I don't think that that's going to happen as much. However, I think that in anticipation, as people do, whether they know something or don't, I think the buzz is going to create a big pump in HEX personally prior to the launch. And then it's a matter of how long that lasts or is sustained until there's a sell the news type event. But that also is going to be fun to watch, because it's like I'm staked, ready for my copies, and I'm happy, because I got a long-term agenda. And then I was trying to get the link to drop here. I'll drop it in the private chat. But I think this is hilarious. One of my followers and personal friend of mine, I think he goes by Demon Twinkies on Twitter. He made this little GIF for me, or a little video clip. But like for the people that were selling, I was like, yeah, I'm like, I'll be your exit liquidity. But I dropped the link to the tweet in there, Maddie, if you want to show it. I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, let me bring it up here.
I'm notoriously always buying. So I'm still yet to take any profit in my HEX, but hey, it's like, if you can do it, I think
that's commendable. That's really cool, man.
You get, there it is. Look at me. The exit liquidity. So yeah, it's like, if you want to sell, man, I'm still buying. But yeah, and it's like, and what's crazy too, it's like how, look at all the airdrops. I think we talked about this before, Maddie. It's like with Uniswap and 1inch and Tornado Cash and all this stuff that was focused on, HEX and HEX stakers as well, with like Pulse Doge and the other stuff. How much of that's going to happen? I mean, we've already had a ton of it, Weight Token, Calm, like all these different kind of ancillary things. So how much more of that's going to happen as Pulse Chain rolls out, So it's like, if it's another benefit to being in early with these things, I think you get all these little extra bonuses.
I am going to start a poll to ask if people wish that they sacrificed more. Yes or no?
I'll answer yes. I mean, looking at what the price did after it over the next 2 years, it's like I wish I had locked in more at that range. For Pulse.
One thing I noticed that might not have anything to do with anything, but I've used the same cryptocurrency price checking app, not Nomics, that I've used. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to give somebody a backdoor into my phone. But there's a popular app I've been using to check, and it's not working anymore. Like, it just stopped working a day or two ago. So I don't know if it's the high Ethereum fees or the record high Bitcoin fees or what it is. Maybe they just went the way of Nomics. But the point is, it's there's something big happening in crypto, and so I don't even care that I can't check the price how I normally do of Ethereum and Bitcoin and HEX and all that, because my bags are packed. I'm ready to go. This is super exciting times, and again, to bring it back to the reason for the season, it's like low fees are the whole point of being able to include more people into crypto, to onboard the next 100 million, the next billion people, to give people self-sovereignty over their funds, and to be able to use crypto for more than just sending and swapping. I think that, for example, I'm going to give you guys an update tonight on Time Pays Me that's I think really special, because what I had realized even after we had gotten the audit back is that there was a little tweak we could do to include my all-time dream. The reason I've ever been in crypto for the past 6 years is to allow people to pay themselves to change their own behavior. and it looks like we might have found a way to include that in our V1 of Time Pays Me. And so
Sweet.
there's going to be more explanations of like how this is possible and like, you know, how it's going to work and everything. But just this idea that that you might be able to have basically a password generated, like a one-time password that you could give to somebody else, and then they could verify if you've changed your behavior or not. And then in the worst case scenario, let's say something goes wrong or you don't change your behavior, it like the money that you've locked for that behavior goal will become unlocked after a year, and there's like no drip associated with it. So it's just like you didn't change your behavior, you get your money in a year. You change your behavior, you get your money now. And so I'm super excited about this because it brings us beyond just the use of crypto for money, but for you know, for people adopting healthy habits,
Right.
quitting unhealthy habits, and all that good kind of stuff. And so even though it looks like Pulse Chain may be launching here later today or tomorrow, and Time Pays Me won't be launched at the same time, I think that you know, until such a time that it can be launched, you know, soon, I think you know, anybody who's wanting to stop themselves from selling, you can use a cold wallet. You can separate your seed words into different places if you've actually done the training and you know how to do that without losing your funds. But basically, there's a lot of ways that people could stop themselves from selling other than using a time locking contract. But the time locking contract, it's you know, it's still close on the horizon. And again, I couldn't give up the opportunity to have, you know, this amazing feature in the V1. So that's the update there.
Very nice.
Nice. So is your audit back or not quite?
Yes. Yeah, we got the audit back. And look,
Okay, cool.
it's the same thing as when Richard got audits. We're sitting here like actually what about this? What about this? And now the auditors did find one thing, that there's a certain type, there's a special type of token that does like sending and receiving taxes, something like that.
Mhm.
It's not exactly that, but that we needed to adjust so that you couldn't, basically, when you send the 0.1% fee to us, basically it's not going to miscalculate how much you can withdraw if you do a second type of. So it's this like super, you know, edge case of somebody who's time locking a token that has a syntax. Maybe
Got it.
they would be able to withdraw 0.1% early because of how the fee gets calculated and stuff. So
Gotcha.
but that's the kind of thing, you know, we want it to be perfect. This is I'm putting my reputation on the line, and we've had it
Sweet.
running in private testnet and everything. So
Awesome.
yeah. At the end of the day, we also made a fix when it comes to the situation where you're not. We wanted to make it so that you could be traveling and not have your second seed phrase with you. And let's say your first seed phrase gets hacked, that you'd be able to still put it into panic mode.
Okay.
So that the hacker can't get away with even 1 week of your funds.
Right on.
And so we came up with like some really good solutions to where you can put your vault into panic mode by signing something ahead of time and having that message with you.
Gotcha.
However, not anybody on the blockchain can just put you into panic mode, because that would
Right.
ruin your extra life that you've created in this being able to undo a hack technology. And look, I think I've said it before, but it's super exciting to me that these giant mainstream, as big as you can get, crypto channels have started signaling that they're going to be supporting this, even the ones that hate HEX. And this is the biggest news. This is the absolute biggest news for Time Pays Me. Is it looks like we found a way to get full adoption.
Nice.
So what I'm saying is that we may have found a way to get like 100 million users right off the bat.
Nice.
Which is like How is that
That's
possible? How could
crazy.
that be done? Wait,
Right.
even on Ethereum, you could do that even on Ethereum with high fees. What
Yeah.
is this magic?
Right.
And I'll explain it once we have it coded. But
Sweet.
it's like the trade-off was, do we launch before Pulse Chain, or do we like have the ability to give everybody a vault
Right.
in all of Ethereum and all of Pulse Chain? And I'm like, wow, this is
Yeah.
really, 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 really cool.
That's awesome, dude. That's exciting. Yeah, because I was thinking, that was such a big part of the tokenomics of Hex and the game theory. I mean, here we are, game theory gang chat.
Yes.
In Hex is having so much of the supply locked up, so since there's, something
Yes.
like what you're building, I think is critical to like the stability of the pricing and the appreciation of the price over time. Is like if there's more people that are locked up, I mean, that only typically takes you in one direction over time.
And there's a lot of people watching right now, and so maybe I'll just very quickly give you the elevator pitch. The idea behind
Yeah.
Time Pays Me is you can time lock any ERC20 or PRC20 token for up to 55 years for as short as a week, right? And you can do it with the native token themselves, Ethereum. You can do it with Pulse Chain coins, and so it'll drip back to you based on the amount of time that you've served. So if you time lock a year and you serve a week, well, a week is 2% of a year, so you can withdraw 2% every week. Or you can wait until the whole year is up, or you can do monthly. But it's getting unlocked over time, and that's what's called a drip. And so there's that. There's the lock there. There's another version of the lock where it's a hard lock instead of a drip. And the reason why that's important is because let's say you don't want to write a blank check to the Ethereum validators for your 15-year HEX stake that you're going to have to pay a high Ethereum fee on. Well, what you can do is you could time lock your Ethereum to come out on the same day or the day before your HEX, and it'll be significantly cheaper to unlock your to basically to move your Ethereum out of your time lock because it's already in your vault, and that can be used to pay to end your HEX stake. And you can pay today's Ethereum prices for 15 years from now, unlocking HEX, and so that's a cool feature. Another thing you can do with Time Pays Me is to be able to undo a hack, and the reason for that is because you have a second seed phrase set up from the beginning, and so that's a brand new technology that I think is the number one feature why people in Ethereum who aren't into HEX yet, they're going to get involved. And the way that works is there's a 1 week withdraw period for any of your funds. And so you can see when the hacker is trying to withdraw, and then you can switch the ownership of the vault over to your second seed phrase. This is all self-custody. This is what crypto is all about, is self-custody. So being able to undo a hack, being able to time lock and drip any coin to yourself, and then the behavior lock is the most recent thing where you are time locking a certain amount of any ERC or PRC20, and then you're naming the goal on the blockchain, 31 characters, and then basically you're giving the password that it generates to somebody that can verify your behavior. Maybe someday it'll work with Fitbit and Apple Watch. Maybe someday it'll work with all types of third-party apps. But for now, it would be your therapist, your physician, your partner, the person across the street who watches you cut the grass, like whatever it is that whoever you want to be the behavioral observer, and then they give you that password back when you've proven to them that you changed your behavior, quitting smoking, eating healthier, exercising, whatever it is. And then if that doesn't work out for you after a year, your funds become unlocked anyway.
Hey, do you know what? This is a very extreme case, but I was just thinking as you're talking how like, oh, that would totally have worked or would continue to work with a couple of friends of mine that have had some addiction issues. And there's a buddy of mine, he's almost 2 years sober now, kicking ass, doing great. But like one of the things, and I know this sounds like so kind of cloying and kind of a little treacly, but it's like it's the guy had no hope. I mean, he was down to like shoeless, homeless, bad way, right? Like this, and it was a really, really difficult time for me hard for me to draw that line, right? To where I'm like, hey, dude, don't call me, don't ask me for Cash App because of whatever long-winded story. I'm like, once you get your shit together, I'm like, you let me know. And, I said, you give me a year. Give me a year. Get a year under your belt, clean and sober, and really showing me that you're doing, what's what. And I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and set it up for you now, but we're going to get a staking ladder going for you. I'm going to give you access to it on your Staker app. You can put this on your phone when you get a phone again, and then that way you can see what's going on. And you can watch, because I've seen it work with, Joe Hexotic and other friends of mine that have had, issues, and how Hex played a role in that to help those people, have some hope for a future. And like I said, I think he's right at the cusp of 2 years and kicking butt. Hey, Johnny Chaos. And this would be a great way to kind of integrate what you were talking about, Maddie, with the time pays me thing, where it's like you can do obviously things. Hopefully, there's not too many people that you're having to help with addiction issues, but there's various things, weight loss goals, you name it. Like, I mean, I'm assuming you can set any kind of behavior change parameters you want with this.
Yeah, you could call your goal whatever you want. You could say secret goal number 1. And I want to apologize, Johnny. ChrispyMan is sharing his screen here, so I couldn't see that you were down there. So my bad.
Only 25 minutes or so.
No, you're hanging in the back that long, dude.
Oh, sorry, Johnny.
I had no idea. I'm sorry, though. Good to see you, Johnny.
How's it going, guys?
Pleasure,
We
dude.
are pumped, man.
Stoked, excited.
It's
What about you?
It's funny. It seems like everybody's forgotten how a fork actually happens. It's like everybody.
Please do tell. Do tell.
I mean, basically, they're going to clone the chain, okay, and then the two chains are going to run parallel, and at a certain block height, that snapshot that everybody's talking about, it's not really a snapshot. It's just they're cloned and then they separate. There's no snapshot. So what you have now is going along, with the chains, both chains, and then at the point of the fork, the universes no longer communicate. They're their own worlds. That's what happens. So when you hear people say, "Is the snapshot taken yet?" They're asking you, "Is it safe to dump my east side stuff yet? Because I want out of this burning building." But unfortunately, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. The world is cloned, the worlds move parallel, and then they separate and go off in their own directions, and that's how that happens.
Like a snapshot.
But it's not a snapshot.
Not a snapshot.
They're going to clone, and they're going to run parallel and then split.
It's a fork.
It's a fork. Not a snapshot.
We've been fighting this since the Pulse sacrifice days. It's like, that word got thrown out there, snapshot, and God, it's like, I remember the
that's because with the test nets, they would take a picture in time and then use that to run the test net. But a fork is not a test net. The fork is the network is running parallel and then splits. But you needed a snapshot so that you could take a system state at that point in time in order to test the network. That was it. That's what that was for. So that was indeed a snapshot. What we're getting now is not a snapshot. It's a fork.
Yep.
Hey, that's a good question.
Yep. Many little things like that, that get lost on people, and they spend an inordinate amount of time being upset about it, or just like speaking incorrectly about it. And like Johnny, you and I kind of crossed paths the other day on the matcha thing. It's like there's so many people that don't understand how matcha works. It's like, they set a limit order, and then you hear them complaining incessantly, like, my limits never fill. And Johnny had a great, his breakdown was perfect. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was like, if you're trying to do $100 limit order for Hex on matcha, and the gas happens to be $100, then the price literally has to move 50 cents beyond your price. You're trying to buy it at 6 cents. Yeah, 50%. Because it's like, you're trying to buy it 6 cents. The price would have to move to 3. Now you would pay 6 cents, but the guy on the other side of that trade's getting it at 3, so he's offsetting the gas, because it's the gas is not free. It's
Yep.
not a free limit order. It's like the other side of the trade pays it, and it's all proportional. So if you're doing a small order, yeah, you're never going to fill, especially with these gas prices. Just forget about it. You know, I mean, if you want to do like a $5,000 limit order, then maybe, you know, you'll get a fill out of it. But it's like short of that with these gas prices, it's like, psh,
Well, $1,000 means it's got to drop 10%.
right.
If it's $100 gas fee.
Yep.
So $1,000 is 10%, but $100, you know, and it's $100 fee, that is 50%. So to fill at 6, you have to drop to 3, and you know, but to fill $1,000 order, you only have to drop down to like 5.4 if you're set at 6.
Right.
So that's, you know, way better because it's a point. Yeah, because it's a 0.6 of a penny.
Right.
If you're at 6 cents, it's 6 cents of a penny. 6 cents of a penny that you have to drop in order for your order to fill and the arbitrage bots to be profitable. So that's very significant. But yeah, if you're just trying to get a $50 order in, you're not gonna, you know. But like I was telling people though, right now it's not so much about price as being able to get in, because if you were to buy market, you're still going to pay a lot more. So if you buy at 6 cents and it's $100, you know, want to buy $100 worth of 6 cents, and it's $100 fee, you're still doing it. So
you just add that to your cost basis.
Yeah. So at least this way, you at least know that your order would get filled. You know.
Yep.
Here's an important question. Somebody's asking, if you create a new wallet on Pulse Chain after the fork, does it still exist on the Ethereum chain? So your coins don't exist on the Ethereum chain. However, the private seed words would work in MetaMask between the two different chains still, because they're using the same standard to be created. So
yeah, you can toggle between networks, but you don't get the
difference. So the difference between like what happens before the fork or before the split and afterwards is if you have coins in self-custody on Ethereum before the fork, then you'll have a copy of those, we assume, after the fork. However, if you're just getting coins on Ethereum or coins on Pulse Chain after the fork, then you won't have them copied over between the two chains. Do you guys
Just an
agree with that?
interesting thought I wanted to throw out to you guys. Isn't it interesting how we're 6 cents and then we kind of topped out at 12 cents? And if you kind of get a copy and it's parity, it's still 12 cents.
Right.
That'd be cool, man.
The other thing I wanted to throw out there for you guys is some of that liquidity doesn't need to be moved because the people that have that liquidity don't need to move it. So you may not see liquidity being moved. And second of all, even if the liquidity needed to be moved and those people wanted to get their copies, they might be holding out for those fees and just holding the line, and they probably got more than they need. So they might not move that, nor might they even know when the snapshot does occur, and they may not be planning for it, or maybe they think it's coming later or whatever. And there I said snapshot, the fork comes. You know, and they may not be ready for it. So you might not see those people move. They're not necessarily the people that are providing liquidity are not privy to any additional information that we have right now.
Right. It's a game of chicken.
Yeah.
Were you guys around before HEX launched? We got a question here from the chat from Hexographer. He's asking a question for the OGs. Is the hype we're feeling pre-mainnet for Pulse Chain similar to how it was leading up to the launch of HEX? I'll go first because my story sucks the most. I knew just a little bit of Richard. I had watched, I don't know, 5 of his streams or something before HEX launched, and I knew I had gotten at least the part where I'm like, all right, this guy knows about Bitcoin. This guy's giving Bitcoiners free coins. I'm a Bitcoiner. And he said, keep checking back every couple weeks and don't buy on day one. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to check back every week. And so I randomly checked back and it was day 3. So this launch, this pre-launch for Pulse Chain is way bigger, way more anticipation, way more excitement, way more people involved from my perspective. but you guys were more involved in the Hex community pre-launch, so you're going to be able to tell me more about your experiences. ChrispyMan, what about you? What was your mood and the mood of the community before Hex launched?
2 more weeks. right up until the night before. Right. I mean, it took that long, but once we knew about it, it was exciting. Great stream, and things didn't quite go off as planned, but then they did, and then off to the races. But different time, different number of people. I mean, God, we have 100 times more people involved in this, and 100 times more energy and projects. So yeah. But I think in the basics, yeah, people anticipated it. They were bitching and moaning for years, literally, right? That it didn't come. And then when it came, it was a big relief.
Day one FOMO.
Yeah. Mine was, I'd found Richard March of that year. March of 18. So I was around for a minute watching, like when he was talking about CFD token, and then it was kind of ancillary because I was actively day trading and trying to dig myself out of the hole. After the previous bull run and the big dump after 20K on Bitcoin, and but I was keeping an eye on him, seeing what was going on, and then I kind of crept around, lurked in Telegram, but never really said anything. And then I saw how you could do the free claim for Bitcoin, and then this tells you what a noob I was, because I was a trader that I did all my trading on Coinbase, right? It's like I had no concept of DeFi at that point, and so I'm trying to go ahead and get my free claim. And I didn't realize, like with the new wallet, and I did like the Electrum thing. It's like, I mean, it was heavy lifting for me, man. I'm like, this is a little weird. And then plus, it's like that stuff looks so antiquated. It just looks so like, analog.
It's ledger. It's just ledger.
It's crazy.
Simple.
And it's like I'm doing it, but the thing is like to move my Bitcoin, I had whitelisting turned on, so I had to wait 48 hours, and then of course that made it not even doable because I missed it by a day. So I'm like, shit. And then it wasn't real clear. It's like, like the launch was supposed to be December 2nd, I think, or December 9th. I can't remember, December, whatever it was. But it's like, does that mean like the clock starts UTC of like, the beginning of it? So it's like, I was a little confused, and then I was like, fuck, I missed it by a day. So I like to tell people that I'm a day 2 OG because I was smart and I listened to Richard, but the truth of the matter is I just fucked up, and I was dicking around with Coinbase and missed day 1, and then I got in day 2. But I think in answer to the question, it's like, I mean, I was excited, but it was unproven, and the FUD was thick, and it was it was a ragtag crew of like, people that didn't even call themselves hexagons yet, just guys kind of like interested in Richard and what he was doing, and there was anticipation, there was excitement. But it was very grassroots, rudimentary kind of, there were some people more confident than others. I go back and look at that stream of Richard kind of with his head down and the candles burning next to him. And he kind of shyly says, if it was me, it's like, I would sell everything and go all in. And it's like, I look back at that now, I'm like, why didn't I listen to that? It's like, what? But back then it's like, I tiptoed in. And but now I think it's different because people see the success that he's had for so many of us, and knowing his track record with creating flawless projects, and the marketing and the community that's huge now, and it's like all the new streamers and TikTokers and you name it. I mean, I think it's exponentially more hype around this getting ready to come out, so it's gonna be huge.
For me, I saw the FUD and the resistance right away. I heard about this guy that was going to take my money, and if I signed the signature, I was going to lose all my Bitcoin, and he was going to scam me. And I got to hear all that FUD, and trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I protect my wallet, and what is the signature thing, and downloading the Electrum, realizing that Electrum splits it into different units, and then you have to claim each one of those units individually. And it's like, it was a nightmare, and it was kind of a crash course. And it was like, initially I was thinking to myself, I'm just going to buy up a bunch of Bitcoin. It's like $3,600. I'm going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. And then after the snapshot, I'm going to do my free claim, and then I'm just going to dump my Bitcoin. It's free. So I've got nothing to lose whatsoever. Was my thought. Obviously, that's not how it transpired. But I mean, I didn't trust. Initially, I wasn't trusting at all. I'm like, look, if this guy's going to do what he says he's going to do, this is going to be freaking awesome. But this is crypto, and most people don't do what they're going to say they're going to do, and it's probably just going to be a dud. But it's not going to cost me anything if I just get my Bitcoin free claim, and it's not going to cost me anything, and I can dump the Bitcoin later. So, but the more and more I listen to the resistance, that's when the more and more I realized that these guys didn't even know what the code was or how it worked or anything about it. And I'm like, these guys are total dumbasses. Mm-hmm. And the more and more I listen to Richard, I'm like, this guy actually knows about crypto and these other guys don't. That's really bizarre. So like these guys are the guys running this space. And then I came to the conclusion of, okay, Richard's going to own this place pretty quick. So I better get on it and I better go ahead and start doing my daily AAs and everything else. But I mean, there were things that I didn't like about it. Like, I didn't understand why, I had to pay the Ethereum transactions to begin with. Why when you're borrowing on that network, why you had to pay those transactions. It's like, I don't like this. It's like I'm donating every time I do something here. I got to pay a fee. This what if they crank up those fees? And I was thinking that even back then, but I didn't realize, I thought it was a HEX thing, not an Ethereum thing. So I mean, I learned a lot on this journey. I didn't have all the answers, but the answers came through the experience and through understanding what was going on. So, hey, I didn't know much back then, but is the excitement the same?
Yeah.
No, it's different. It's totally different. I feel like we've been proven. It's accepted. It's better understood. We are nowhere near getting the same amount of resistance as we were before. I mean, it's so funny to me that people think there's FUD now. It's like you haven't experienced FUD. When you turned on your YouTube and every single day somebody is in your face screaming that Richard's a scammer every day, repetitiously, day after day after day after day, and you still hold your position, then you understand what FUD is. This is going to be a smooth launch. There's nothing to FUD about. If Bitcoin collapses and freezes up with 400K transactions because they tried to build on it, Ethereum gas fees are through the roof, and you guys, and anybody would be worried about how well Pulse is going to do. It's got to be out of their freaking gourd.
Wow.
Where are you going to go?
Wow. That's good. That's a good take.
Yep. It seems almost surreal. It's like I mean, looking back, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like I've talked to a couple different OGs and non-OGs and Twitter DMs and text messages and you name it. And everybody that I've talked to is kind of have, and we haven't talked, the four of us, about the same thing, but it's like, it feels a little surreal. Like, are we real? Wait a minute. Are we really here? Or like, are we really that close? It's like we've almost been lulled to sleep with it taking so long that it's like we're excited, but at the same time, it's like this, no way. Like, this can't. Really? It's like, this is going to happen. It's like, holy shit. It's like, this is going to, like, I mean, not to sound like crazy hyperbolic, but it's like, I really feel like this is going to change the world. I mean, it's like, it's just, everything's lining up perfect.
I mean, it's programmable money. It's the decentralized world computer. And it hasn't been working since close to when HEX launched, when we had penny transaction fees.
He fixed crypto.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's like, what? It's like he really did it. It's like,
well, that was kind of the point of contention, was why didn't HEX launch on its own chain to begin with, right? That was the point of contention. And Richard's idea behind that was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, And why go and build a whole entire blockchain when you could just utilize, piggyback on Ethereum's network? And at the time, Ethereum was doing fine. Penny transactions were fine. That wasn't a problem. And he had always said, look, if they screw it up, we're going to fix it. We're going to fork the network. He always said that was an option. Guess what they did?
Yeah.
They screwed it up. Now we're forking the network. They had their chance.
Yeah.
They had their chance. I mean,
Yep.
we wanted to play nice. We wanted to play along. And no, now we've got to do what we've got to do, because you're not going to get change without competition. You're just not. And it's necessary. So not only will Pulse Chain, oh, I lost my screen. Not only will Pulse Chain, give us a cheaper, faster, easier way to do things, it's going to force Ethereum to compete instead of being the only road in town and the only show there is with all the compatibility. It's going to make them think about how they handle things. Or we know what happens if you ignore your user base. We know what happens.
Yep. Well, and the thing that I've always liked is just the simplicity of Richard's explanation of why do Pulse Chain. And it's like, if Ethereum's doing good things, just like a McDonald's, right? The whole McDonald's analogy. It's like you got people lined up out the door at McDonald's. It's like, build one next door,
Yeah.
just do the same thing. And then you can service more people. So, before people start crying about Pulse Chain prices going up, because it's like we were blessed with what, like less than 50-cent transaction fees, when the adoption amplifier was going. It's like, I can't remember, but they're cheap pennies. Yeah. And it's like, if you got $1 transaction fee, I was like, what the hell? And so to see, literally, I had stakes end near the beginning, or like, I can't remember exactly. I think it was before the all-time high, $1,500 to end one stake. And then because I was a moron with my staking ladder and I didn't understand initially, I had 4 stakes in a row, one right after the other, like 4 days. So $6,000 I spent in Ethereum, you know what I mean? And it's like, so it's bonkers. So it's like, yeah, it's like as the chain fills up, like any other chain, barring any genius creation by Vitalik with sharding or whatever to kind of like make it more capable. What would preclude Richard from just doing another fork and opening up another McDonald's, if it was necessary in the future,
Right. And that's just it, if it's necessary. And the thing is, people are like, well, why don't everybody, this is where people get into, well, everybody could just fork Ethereum then. Why don't we just all fork Ethereum?
Right.
Because it has to be supported. You need the community to go with it. You can't just open an empty ghost chain and expect people to come. It doesn't work that way. The reason why Pulse is going to be successful is because it comes bootstrapped with the community. And you can't beat that. You can't beat, not even just that, but bootstrapped with 170 new products that aren't going to be on Ethereum. So it's Ethereum Plus. It's got all these other things that aren't there, right? How did Walmart close out all the mom and pop stores? Well, very simple. They had everything everybody else did and more. That's it.
And cheaper.
Yeah.
In one spot.
And I said a year ago that Pulse X can be the Amazon of crypto, doing up to 40% of all new crypto commerce. Why? Because we'll be in a situation where we can onboard people directly into our side of this space, and they don't even have to go over to that other side. That's, if it's cheaper, easier, faster, more efficient, and more accessible with the on-ramps and everything, why do they need to go over there?
Right.
So
we've got 462 people all asking the same question here that Charles Stark is asking with a $20 super chat for Johnny. Hi from Japan. Johnny, you're a big proponent of a HEX increase due to Pulse Chain. Is there any scenario involving PLS and PLSX in which this would not be the case? Still confident they move synchronously? ?
Nobody knows until the ratios are in. But considering that Pulse is being built to save hexagons, which was always the reason, and if Ethereum would have done things right and not screwed us with the S load, there wouldn't even be a Pulse. So the reason all these last 2 years of dedication was basically, since our building's on fire, we're getting a new building on a new chain. That's what it comes down to. So I think that this network is built and Hex is the endpoint. But again, until the ratios are in, nobody really knows that for sure.
True.
Johnny, I really appreciated your breakdown of Hart's law and how it would apply to those ratios going forward on Pulse Chain. So would you mind kind of touching on that for people that maybe didn't see that on Twitter or on your other streams?
Let's see here.
Or you could just share the clip. That would be easier.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to repeat yourself. That's one of the things. There's OG exhaustion, where it's like we've said the same thing so many times. It's like sometimes if you got it recorded, it's like it makes it a little easier on us.
Well, it's kind of to the point where, I mean, look, if people aren't looking for the information, I'm not repeating it. I mean, go look for it. If you want to find it, go look for it.
I'll see if I can find a link and drop it for
Johnny's
tweet.
It is getting exhausting. And you know what? Again, it's a theory. It's about how things could work. I am not setting the pools. I don't get to choose. But I had this epiphany of the ideal setup, which is within the bounds of possibilities, that seems to be very optimal to me. And it makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons. From preserving the Ethereum side, to creating a universal conduit between chains, to creating a fair and balanced system and liquidity pools that would have no impermanent loss, which allowed the OA to absorb coins off of both chains and remove them from market, to allow direct swaps and direct trades without the necessity of selling off one side to bridge it over to purchase another. It's just well balanced. So like the whole concept that occurred to me seems to make a lot of sense, and I've not found a reason why it wouldn't be that way, which actually frustrates me, because usually I like to drill holes and stuff and find out what its point of failure is. But it sounds too good to be true, because it's just too optimistic, right?
Hey, Johnny, I searched your Twitter, and that's funny because it's like one of the first ones that came up was from November of 21, where you're talking about the pairings of Hex and Pulse and Hart's law. Yeah, so you've been
He's a
beating
prophet.
for a minute. Yeah.
It takes 2 years for you guys to catch up. Well, did you remember my DeFi balloon?
Some of us learn a little slower, Johnny. I'm sorry.
Do you remember my DeFi balloon? As soon as DeFi summer took off, I blew up a balloon that said DeFi on it, and I popped it and pulled out a Hex token. And Richard said profit, right? And what happened? All DeFi crashed around us. Cream Finance, Pickle Finance, UFi, whatever, all the leverage, all the stupid exchanges. Everything crashed around us. What was still standing? Hex. So it's
true story.
Beautiful. Very prescient, Johnny. You're ahead of your time. If I didn't know any better, I'd think you had been taking my DeLorean for a spin when I wasn't looking. But I think you are just that smart. Now, thanks to Hex Holmes for the super chat with a question. It looks like about security, about protecting PLS. Instead of, I think, focusing on which operating system you're using among the mainstream operating systems, I would recommend a hardware wallet. I've got a link in the description below. That's what creates essentially an air gap computer. It's kind of that level of security, because the seed words. So remember, there's two ways that you can get words on your Trezor, your seed words. Either you've created them in MetaMask and they've been exposed to your computer and the internet and your keyboard and your screen and any viruses that are on your computer. Now, if the funds didn't disappear right away, those seed words probably aren't compromised. There is one virus out there that can look at your seed words on your MetaMask when it's stored simply on your phone or on your computer. So that's why having a hardware wallet is the best thing you can do. And instead of just migrating those words, which you would do probably with one Trezor if you've got hex stakes, what you're doing with another Trezor is to generate the 24 seed words on the Trezor itself. So that's the difference between migrating seed words that were made in MetaMask versus making a new set of words that was made on the Trezor, and then those 24 words on the Trezor can plug into MetaMask through a different Chrome profile. So a different Chrome profile can connect you. So now on the same computer, you have your hex stakes that have been migrated into one Trezor. You've got another Trezor that has seed words that were generated only on that device. Hopefully that's helpful to you in your search for better security.
Good advice.
What about Trezor? It's a personal preference of mine to only promote one because I would get confused in the past which one was which when I heard all influencers in Bitcoin and elsewhere just always saying both of them. I like Trezor because they didn't have a data leak of people's home addresses. And so that's the one that I promote, but both of them work. I have both.
I'm a Trezor guy. I've got both as well, but I prefer Trezor.
Somebody's saying,
how significant is it? How significant is it? It means it's on its way. It means the process has begun, and at a certain block height, it's just going to happen. That's it. There you go. That's how significant the merge and GitLab is. It's in process of becoming live. We don't know how many days that's going to take. We're going to find out.
That's when the snapshot happens.
God damn it.
Crispy, jeez, man. We were making some headway, man.
Ow.
We're making some headway.
It's my comedy relief. That is when the fork will be official.
Yep.
I almost had, like, as Johnny was saying that, I was fighting having a giggle fit. Just like, oh God, it's really happening.
It's happening. Oh God,
Jesus Christ, it's coming.
So realistically, I mean, I know everybody's like, it's hours away, it's minutes away, it's hours away. No, it's actually really in process. The bus has left the station. It is in process. It's going to happen. We don't know when the bus gets here. That's it. And it went from V3 to V4, and it took 7 days. Okay. So it could take up to 7 days. And it could be done before then, and they might choose to delay it.
Right.
Because they have to select the block height in which the fork happens.
Right.
But as I've said, for the past year, it's going to be May.
Yep. And I don't know what the next step is in the roadmap for Ethereum. So I know we just did the Shanghai thing or the Chappelle fork or whatever it was called.
Chappella.
The Chappella, got it. The Dave Chappelle fork.
They kept changing it, so it was Chappelle and Capella combined.
Got it.
Chappella.
But to answer people's concerns of him trying to time the market and like we're not full on in the bull yet, so he's gonna wait. Bullshit. Here's the deal. To me, it's like if it was ready to go, and then because I thought I had this crystal ball and I knew the perfect timing, market timing to do it, and then chose to wait, and then somehow Vitalik pulls a frickin' rabbit out of his hat and decides, hey, we're gonna roll out this next fork. And then all of a sudden that throws a wrench in things that backs us up a few months to kind of like see if we want that as to be, part of the update or not. it's not worth the risk. I mean, it's like he's going to launch it as soon as it's ready, as soon as it's viable. It's like I think he's got to go.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what Ethereum comes up with now because that would just be an upgrade, and they can add it after the fact. And you're not. The bus has already left the station. That's what I'm saying. There is no turning back at this point.
Right. Shanghai was a significant one. It's like that one needed to be integrated because it's like
we're
otherwise
all on the bus.
Yeah, well, you're disincentivizing validators because it's like you don't want to be like the ETH validators that couldn't withdraw for 2 years. Right?
I kind of liked it. I kind of like the idea of, but because then only the people that would be validating would not be willy-nilly in and out, right? Right
True.
now,
True.
One of the things that amazes me is the amount of interest that there is for people to be validators. Remember, when we were doing the BSC fork, there was only going to be 33 validators.
Yep.
Now we've got like 6,000, and we ain't even launched yet. There's 6,000 validators standing by for a chain that doesn't even exist yet. You know, look at that, guys. When does that happen? And when does that happen?
Yep.
You know, can you imagine having 6,000 Bitcoin miners ready to mine Bitcoin before it even existed? You know, that's crazy.
Welcome to Pulse Chain.
It's a lot.
But I know what it is because there's a psychological effect there. This really shows the attachment to Pulse Chain. This shows the fact that a lot of the cryptos are very exclusive, elitist, so to speak. You have to have X amount of money to play or you can't play with us, kind of thing. And this opens up for a lot of people to be able to participate where they've been shut out before. And I think that's very powerful emotionally because this is a chain that everybody can once again participate on, just like Bitcoin in its early days when everybody could mine it on their own computer.
Yep.
And I think this is a very significant time. And the interest is definitely there because we see 6,000 validators and the chain isn't even launched yet. How many are we going to have once the chain is up and running? How much is that network going to grow? How many validators are we going to get? And importantly, that's 32 million per validator that's being locked up and removed from circulating supply for God knows how long. And how many people are going to just do that? They're just going to pull it off the market to start up their validators.
I'll consider it for sure.
You should check it out. I'm telling you, it's like the thing to think about too with the 6,200 or however many validators we have on testnet right now. How many of them are like me? And I've got 2 nooks and I've got 1 validator running on each. Because I'm not trying to stress test something and put like as many as I can on it. And it's like I have a limited amount of pulse like anybody. But still, it's like, yeah, there's 6,200 validators running right now. But how many of those guys are going to run 50 validators, 100 validators, 500 validators? You know what I mean? And it's like, and they haven't spun it up yet.
Yeah. Because you can have one device and you can run multiple validators depending on how many 32 million pulse you want to lock up. And you know, my comment based on what Johnny was saying is like even a small fish like me is going to be interested after the water's been tested. You know, I will swim along with the whales if this turns out to be profitable and safe and easy. And I see somebody in the chat mentioning even a fork or rocket pool. I would rather keep my own custody, but that certainly will also increase the number of people. The more people who lock up their tokens, earning APY, being validators, the less that gets sold on the market.
Yep.
That's when you said you leave it in 15, so take the floor, my friend.
Maddie's leaving in 15. Who's leaving? Crispy's leaving in 15. Oh, God, I thought that was Maddie's message.
Yeah,
so Crispy's bouncing.
Oh, I didn't see. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's right. I'm good.
Trying to make the man talk. He doesn't
made it public. It's like private chat, Johnny. You don't say private chat stuff in public.
No, I was just letting him know I was gonna leave.
Got it. You got to bounce a little early tonight. No worries.
Hey, did you? Because I watched
my Patreon membership, by the way, to hexfire.io. It's like I'm liking the Patreon experience.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Hi.
Good to
Can
hear.
you
For
give
those
your
that don't know-
testimonial so more people will sign up to
Dude,
HEX
it's great.
Fire
I mean,
IO on Patreon?
Hexfire IO on Patreon. Go do it. I mean, it's like do you know what? There's a lot of people that do Patreon and then they don't keep up with it. It's like, okay, you're paying, but like there's nobody giving you anything new or special over there. And it's like, why am I going to pay this membership? You know, but he's on it. It's very, very interesting, and I lurk frequently. So thank
Cool,
you.
man.
Cool.
Yeah, I do keep putting stuff out there. All right, that's what the purpose is. But what I was going to bring up was those TShares. So since we're talking so much about launch, I'll say this: I think that the best strategy ever is to have hex mining on Ethereum and get the fork. That's what I think, and I think that's going to be proven out in the future, just like it was proven with Big Payday. The best thing I could have ever done was be staked out long over Big Payday.
Yes.
Because I think the copy is going to be priceless. But that being said, we're seeing an increasing rate of drop in TShares. And now this may be temporary.
TShares are disappearing. They're becoming more rare.
They're becoming more rare at the moment.
Well,
And it may be because of Pulse Chain.
Well, I was going to say, how many people are just holding on to more liquid than usual because they're waiting for Pulse Chain?
Significant enough that you can look with the naked eye day over day and see the chart, really curling up or whichever direction, depends on the chart, whether you're looking at circulating supply or otherwise. You can see big changes happening. And of course, we hit that 10 million milestone recently, and I think some people follow this as close as I do. The payout on average is way up. And I mean, it's almost guaranteed 6.5 every day, per T-share. So that's been going on. And you guys may remember at the conference, KSB TV guys and we had theorized, hey, we'll be conservative, and we'll look at the decay rate at being like 10% for T-shares, meaning that only 90% of the T-shares will be restaked day over day when the stakes end. And what we end up finding out is we had a big spurt where it went up this year, so it invalidated our estimate a little bit. But now it's almost 30% now. So it started at 10%. We saw some things with Godwill, kind of got an anomaly out of that because that Godwill did not restake. And then I adjusted last week the forecast to 15%. Now we're running 30% this month.
You're saying that that 30% of T-shares are not renewed?
Correct, at the moment.
Wow.
And so that's creating it's creating a new situation where the payouts are going to start going up higher. And that's how you're going to end up in. Of course, that's always happening, but just a little bit more. It's just a little bit more extreme.
Yep.
And of course, that's compounded by the gas.
Yeah, because I was going to say there's probably less shorter stakes too. Those rolling stakes, because I mean, unless you have a bag that you're trying to do that with, it's like the fees eat it up. It's nuts. Because I did a shorter stake. I mean, it was like a month. Just because I was sitting on more liquid than usual. And I'm like, I'll go ahead and do one of these little rolling stakes I keep hearing about. It's freaking like $35 to end it. I'm just like, what? I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's like
Well, right. Well,
stake is $700 to end right now.
A what?
I got a stake bleeding, $700 to end it right now.
Jeez,
yeah. And we're not even in a bull market.
Dude, yeah, one of my onboards.
I cannot imagine where those Ethereum prices are going to be later. But you know what? It can burn. It can burn because we're going to get the fork of the Pulse, and I'll have it over there, and I'll be able to unstake it over there. And then while I can wait, I can let it bleed for 2 years till Ethereum makes their adjustments to their gas fees, and then I'll worry about it then. I'm getting my copy.
Correct. Yeah.
And I expect them to be just as valuable. I mean, I've been looking at it like this. It's like, look, if Ethereum burns down, the insurance company's building me a whole new house and everything that I got in it over here. So I'm good,
Totally.
But I'm not going to dump everything I got over there because they might straighten it out.
Right.
They might, but they might not straighten it out. So at least I know I've got a place to go and play. You know,
with cheaper groceries, cheaper gas
cheaper
stations,
everything,
cheaper
yeah.
everything.
But I think, you know, so Crispy, my big thing is at 7.5 years, I think 80% of all those 555s that were made back then are not going to be there, because Hex price will hit so high that people will tap out and they won't worry about their big payday bonus. They won't worry about losing some of that yield. They will just tap out and just forfeit that big payday bonus. So I think, so I've got stakes that are 8 years long because I'm going to collect that shit.
Right.
Yeah, I
can
think
see that.
that's definitely in the cards, right? Because now, of course, if you stay longer, you'll get more yield, and then if there's more upside, you get that. So I mean, the old argument still exists, but yeah, I mean, you know, when you're faced with being able to cash out $1 million.
Well, and you know, with things like Hedron and God knows what's in the pipeline for the future, it's like, you know, I've said this often. It's like, you know, depending on what level you're at as far as TShares go, it's like, because I always hated the argument that like, well, the only reason the OGs are still around is like they're trying to get us to pump their bags, and I'm like,
We
really?
can't tell.
It's like number one, they're locked up. Number two, it's like, do you even do math, bro? It's like, if you do the math, it's like if there's someone that's like an average height or average rank dolphin, and they got the 10x on their Hedron at the current Hedron prices. I just did the math on this the other day. That person is making almost $50,000 a year in Hedron, and they don't have to touch their hex at all.
Yeah,
They can just dump their Hedron, or they can stake their Hedron and then get more ICOs and blah, 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 and then liquidate that stuff. So there are situations where there are OGs that are at such a level they will never, ever, ever have to sell their hex. And then you look at lending protocols and all this other stuff. It's like, it's a junk argument, you know? So, I mean, it's.
You know, the way to really spot that, Toby,
Yeah.
is look at the number of whales, look at the number of dolphins, look at the number of squids, and then you realize those numbers don't change.
Yep.
It's not the dolphins, the squids, and sharks and whales. You know who it is? It's the shells and the shrimp. It's the people that are holding it liquid to begin with. They have no interest in staking whatsoever. They're just looking at it as another token, playing the same trader games they've always played. They've never learned any different. They never learned any better, and they're just doing their thing.
Well, don't pick on those guys, because they're the ones that actually are staking. Otherwise, we wouldn't know they existed.
Well, and
hopefully
it's
the traders.
Well, hopefully they're watching.
Well, it is traders, but I'm saying they're small. They've got small stakes, very, very small stakes that don't add up to anything. It's not the people that have the most skin in the game, you know.
No, well, you can, yeah. I know, I hear that a lot too, and I always kind of like bristle at it, because I do watch the numbers, and yes, sometimes people fall out of the lineup, but the sharks don't fall out that often, and neither do the dolphins.
We lost a few dolphins with the V3 to V4. We lost a few dolphins there. It used to be like 888, but we've lost a few since then. I don't know what the count is, but
RIP.
Yeah.
But
and we lost
it's
one shark to a hack.
I mean, a lot of times, outside of the case of a hack, it's a win-win if people are seeing the price go up so much that they can end their stake halfway through and forfeit their big payday. And, you know, I think it wasn't necessarily imagined from the beginning, at least in my mind, that the emergency might be that the price went up so much that now you're a multimillionaire.
Right.
For emergency end staking. So
it's like, damn it, I'm rich.
Yeah. And but the gas fees are a problem. I agree that you know, that people being able to end early, I think some people will miss out on that exponential part of the compound interest curve that you're getting, because when people end early, they're giving half of their penalties to the staker class, and so that's going to compound even more when people are taking out money early. We have we got up to 500 people watching just a few minutes ago. So
Sweet.
hit the like and subscribe button. I've got the links for everybody who's here on screen in the description below, and make sure to subscribe to them.
We got
Wait until those TShares cost $100,000 US.
I want to shill something. It's like, it's not mine, and it doesn't cost you anything. But it's Bree and Juan Fernandez and myself all worked on a spreadsheet that really opened my eyes to. I shared it with Crispy way back in the day. I think you guys have probably seen it. That opened my eyes to the power of TShares. And then we spoke with Kay about webifying it, and then Bree, had some qualms about how we wanted to do it, and then we all kind of like pumped the brakes, and Kay went ahead and did it, and it's stakehex.today. So like if you guys check out stakehex.today, yeah. So if you check out stakehex.today, it's more or less a webified version of that early spreadsheet that's still floating around out there, and it really, really is remarkable to be able to see the difference. Because for me, the thing, like, it took me a minute to get TShares. And then the real eye opener for me was from 10 to 15 years. Because, we all know here on the stream that like when you're at 10 years that you've maxed out your big payday or your whatever, your bigger pays better bonus, longer pays better.
But
you maxed that out. Right. Yeah. 3,642 days you're maxed, right? But so like people are like, well, then why would you stake for longer than 10 years? You're not getting more TShares.
But you double up in half the time.
Right. And then the thing is like, if that's not clicking for somebody to see it, like, go in there, put some test stakes in and see the difference from a 10-year stake, 11-year stake, 12-year, 13, 14, 15, and just how it's like a freaking J hook to the moon. It's crazy how much more things just ramp up for those extra few years after that 10-year mark. And then, I mean, it's bonkers. It's like,
I think the biggest problem we have is people are looking at these coins and they're only a few pennies. And they're like, who cares if I have more pennies? Because they haven't realized yet that the price is not going to stay here.
Right.
That's the big problem that they don't get.
Yep.
Are you saying that they're diamonds and not pennies?
I'm telling you, just for short-term thinking, if the bank opened up today and said you can buy dollars for 6 cents, the only catch is you can't use those dollars for 2 years, how many dollars would you buy? Because that's where
all
we're
of
at.
the dollars.
That's where we're at right now. And you know what else? Yeah. The bank is having a special. If you buy $1, you get $2. You get another dollar free, and that ends very, very shortly. And you guys
buy one, get one free.
That around at 6 cents. It's absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah.
Not you guys, but the audience in general. Sure. Everything. It's like
you guys.
You guys.
Well, and the thing too is like, because one of the big pushbacks I'll get for anyone that's really paying attention to my elevator pitch is like, okay, so you're getting more HEX, so your yields in HEX. I'm like, yeah. And it's like, well, what if HEX price goes to crap? Well, it's like, well, if your average APY is like, let's say 30%, right? Then HEX could literally go down 15% a year forever, and your fiat value would not change. Yeah. And it's like, if it's going up, then all it's doing is amplifying your gain. So it's like, it's just math, people. It's like, just do the math on it. And it's a hedge to the downside, and it amplifies the upside. It's like staking is, I can't say enough good things about it. It's like, obviously not financial advice, but it's like, man, I haven't found a better store value ever, so.
One of the things that made me laugh, Toby, is I saw a lot of people going, damn it, I should have sold at 12 cents. And I'm like, why? The next time you're at 12 cents, you're going to have 30% or more coins.
Right.
You didn't lose anything.
Yep.
Yeah, 30% more coins next time you get there. And people are like, well, they were giving me shit. Why didn't you sell at 40 cents? Because the next time we're at 40 cents, I'm going to have 3 times my bag.
Yeah.
Boom.
Totally.
That's why. If I would have sold at 40 cents, I would have nothing. Now I'm going to have 3 times when it goes back to that price. That's the part that people don't grasp. It's not a coin that you kick yourself because you didn't sell the top, because that's just the last top. Next time you get there, you'll have more coins when you are there. It's like, come on.
Well, you're obviously mining, right? You're staked up.
I'm staked. I'm stuck.
You, I,
Forever.
I
Staying
laugh.
stuck, it's the same thing.
I laugh when I run to people and they're like, I just don't believe in staking, you know, and you get all this. But for those of us who are miners and are staking, maybe other people do this too. Is sometimes I just forget to, like, even though I have keys stuff right on StakeX today, sometimes I just kind of get stuck on looking at whatever my current amount is and the value, and I get that stuck in my head, and I forget to project out into the future.
Mm.
And I think that probably does me a disservice, probably does other people a disservice if they don't look at that, because it's not a guarantee that it'll happen because they're all projections, but man, does it change the picture. And it's exactly what Johnny's talking about. I mean, you know, if you're playing this game short, then I can understand why you think that the way you do. But if you're playing it long, you give up so much by not being involved in the mining and the staking. And anyways, it's gonna be pretty huge, I think.
One of the things I said, Crispy, was that with Staker app, they could have reversed the hex and the price and made the hex bigger, because that number goes up every day that you're staked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then down below in the small print, you could say suggested retail value, current suggested retail value, not
Yeah,
this is the price. And that would do a lot for people's mental health and understanding to wrap their brain around. Something that small is so significant. And of course, that idea just got blown off, so I just stopped talking about it altogether, and I don't bother
Well,
with it.
let me throw this at you. Hey, do you know my friend Sami?
Yes,
I mean, he's your friend too, right?
he's our friend.
He's all
He's
our
all our friend.
That's
but
his screen name on YouTube.
Again, funny guy.
yeah. So he had a good. I like a lot of what he has to say, you know, because it correlates pretty well, or resonates with me pretty well. He said something this morning which is pretty obvious that I knew about, very much in the same frame, about measurement of your gains in crypto. And you remember how back in 2016, 17, it was all about how much Bitcoin you had. I mean, to the point that if you went into an exchange, the first thing you would see is your value in terms of Bitcoin. Then later on, they added the value in terms of for your entire portfolio, right?
Right.
And he was talking about measuring in that way. And I think that goes right along hand in hand with what you're talking about. What do I care most about? I care most about how many hex do I have? The dollar value, the fiat value is becoming less and less important. And as I was actually thinking about incorporating that into my models, I mean, I have the data. I mean, it's math, but it's presentation of the data. And even to be able to show, because I think you do lose some of this over time, being able to show just how much you've gained in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum over time. Because I know mine has, right? Because I didn't have equivalent value that I have today in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
at the time.
but here's the thing: since Hex is a productive store of value, it's making more coins. So it's not so you literally have a number that does nothing but go up, right?
Right.
So that's where you want people to have their focus mentally, even if the price is going down. And then, like I said, I don't like the idea of it's just worth this much USDC, because that's not true. People don't understand there are also liquidity gaps. There are areas of low liquidity and orders in the order book where there's massive slippage, where you can get way more than suggested retail market value if you know what the hell you're doing. However, if you're staked, you shouldn't be thinking about selling anyway. The whole purpose of staking is to earn more coins, and you are actually seeing your coins go up every day. Why are you so concerned? Why is your emotional state affected by a price that you can't sell for anyway? That's kind of the point of that. Why do we adjust people's focus onto that price, onto their full portfolio value, when they're not looking at how many coins that they got? You know?
Well,
It's like,
I've got a solution right here, and it's called When Chaos app.
I don't want to build more stuff. I throw the ideas out there and people to run with it. And look, little adjustments can mean a whole lot.
It's important what
My
you're
app
saying.
would have a little flag girl that comes out and says, "You've earned this much X today. Congratulations."
Yeah.
Gamify it, man. Make it happy. Let people know that they're earning, especially when we're having a downtrend and people feel like they're losing when they're not. They're actually gaining more coins. They only lose when they tap out and they emergency unstake and they forfeit this and they forfeit that and they tap out and then they never get to succeed. But maybe some people want people to shake out, right?
My internet freaked out there for a second. Sorry about that, guys. But Johnny, I was actually trying to look at a stake that you reminded me of, like, this whole thing of like, why didn't you sell at 40 cents? And it's like, if you're staked and making more, it's like, I had a huge stake that had ended just before the all-time high. So I had liquid, like not a small bag, like millions of HEX. And I chose to restake for like 6 and 7 years. I think I had some holes in my ladder and I threw it down the road because I didn't need the money and I knew that I was going to be earning yield. And it's almost already earned 50% more HEX in like since all-time high.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so now, like you said, like when we get to all-time high again, which could be this year, could be next, it's bonkers.
Yeah, it definitely dampens the pain, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you have to be in for at least 2 years to kind of see it. That's the problem. People have to stick around for at least 2 years to see it. If they don't, they're not going to see it. No matter what we tell them, they're not going to believe us.
Well, Grandma knew, right? When she gave you that $100 CD, she understood the time value of money, and it's the same thing. Yeah.
Toby, we need to slash you somehow for your internet going out for a few seconds.
Oh no.
I'm not sure how that's going to work on StreamYard, but I'm just warning you.
Well, I'm getting slashed.
Keep your internet up.
I'm trying. I don't know what happened there. Something got wonky.
Slash.
So, no. Luckily, it's just play money right now, so my slashing doesn't hurt as bad. But,
well, and to be fair, it's David had let people know that basically, and Gamma DevOps, when you get slashed, it's you're losing maybe the same amount in a day of being down as you would be gaining from a day or two of your earnings, and so it's the slashing is not super bad unless you have somebody who's hacked you and they're running a copy of your validator, or somehow you copied your validator and then you lose 50%.
Yeah, that's worst case scenario. But yeah, just regular slashing is not bad. I'll find out. I'll find out for sure. Like once I get my validators back online later tonight or tomorrow to see what I lost. But Johnny, we were talking about this earlier before you came on about what the opportunity is, just like there was early in HEX with staking, with validating for especially those that sacrificed and got in at a good rate. If you were able to get HEX now at the SAC price, 32 million HEX would cost you about $3,400 to run a single validator. If you want to run a validator for ETH, it's 32 ETH, which is almost 60 grand. So at this point, $3,400 is a pretty good entry point, plus your equipment. And one validator on testnet right now is earning about just shy of 20,000 pulse a day, which is about $2, which you're like, okay, well, that's, it's going to take me, $700 a year to recoup my investment. Well, yeah, but you're not considering price appreciation and you're not considering competition, because if it's not those early guys that have bags already and people come in later when we're at a 10x or a 100x, now it's not $3,400 worth of pulse to validate. It's $34,000 or $340,000 to run a single validator. And you're not making $2 a day per validator. You're making $20 a day or $200 a day. So that recoups your cost fast, and the competition isn't going to be as extreme, because who's going to want to put up $500,000 to run a validator?
Now here's the thing, though. Here's the actual truth. I understand everybody's enthusiastic about the network. I understand everybody wants to be a validator, and that's fine. It removes supply from the market and everything. But just like Bitcoin, instead of buying a bunch of miners and equipment, you would have been better off buying the coins. In all actuality, if you're working a regular job, in all actuality, sub-cent prices for Pulse, instead of running the equipment and working a job and trying to keep all these validators up, if you're just putting dollar cost averaging into Pulse, you'll probably do better than spending your money on the equipment. And that's the truth.
True that.
Yep.
And, so I don't feel comfortable with everybody thinking that this is the cool thing to do and they have to do it.
No. Mm-mm.
And, if you do not know what you're doing as a validator, there is slashing, and, it's a job. It's an actual job. And, you have to take that into consideration. Look, if you're setting up a validator on a computer that you already have, you're going to buy one, you want to invest in the network, and you want to just make sure that there's different reasons for doing things. But if your goal is, and I know a lot of people's goal is not necessarily because they want to support the network or because they want to run a validator, it's because they want to make profit. Okay. And if you want to make profit, and that is your goal, and that is your rationale, and that is your reasoning, then you need to dollar cost average your Pulse. You would do better monetarily wise than if you were running a validator. That's just going to be how it's going to be.
Well, it's just, it's math again. It's simple, because it's like, let's say it cost you $2,000 for the equipment alone, and you would have put that $2,000 into Pulse and got it. Let's say you caught a dip and you got it close to sack rate, and it does a 10x. Well, your $2,000 just became 20.
Yep.
Now, that $2,000 been tied up in a validator. Okay, now you're making $20 a day instead of $20 a day. instead of $2 a day. Right. But just say you're making $20 a day, so it's going to take you 1,000 days at that price point for you to make that 20 grand, right? So
which you can see why Richard had to up the Pulse chain validators yield, and of course we had more participants than we expected.
Yep.
And you got to compensate for that, because they would be making nothing. And this is like a problem with Bitcoin, because what happens when there's no more coins and the power bills are extremely high? Who's going to go to work, guys? Who's going to pay those power bills if they're not making any fees, right? That becomes a kind of a bad scenario, right? But that's why we had to start out with the higher fees. That's why we went from a V3 to V4, because he had to increase the rate of the payouts. But those rates of payouts will go down. Price appreciation will occur. So hopefully it's kind of a self-balancing thing.
Right.
But the more validators there are, the less profitable it becomes for the validators.
Yep. Just like stakers, the more stakers there are,
same thing.
The share payout goes down. Yep.
But I'm going to point this out again. Pulse validation is not going to outcompete HEX staking.
No.
And, I know everybody wants to go for the new shiny object, but the new shiny object isn't getting you a copy. Number one. Number two, new shiny object is not giving you TShares. Okay.
Yep.
And the new shiny object, what it will do is it will have a bonding to HEX, and it was going to pump HEX anyway.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think too, it's like not only with Pulse and Pulse X and people that are making gains on those, but all these PRC20s that are coming in, it's like there's going to be plenty of people that have no idea who Richard Hart even is. And then they get into the Pulse ecosystem because of these PRC20 copies. Yep. And let's say Link on Pulse Chain just goes apeshit, and people are making a ton of profit off of it. Well, ideally they become aware of Richard, and they're like, oh, who's Richard Hart? Oh, and what else did you? Oh, you did HEX. Well, what's HEX? And then you get to discover the best store of value ever created. So, my thinking is a huge pumpamental for HEX is how many of those people that don't even know about HEX yet are going to take some of the profits that they're making on all these PRC20s and store some of that in HEX.
They buy green candles, Toby. That's what they do. They buy green candles.
Well, they'll see the rest of us, enjoying the HEX pumps, and then they'll FOMO in,
They buy green candles. When the green candles come, they'll all join.
Yep.
Well, we better straighten up our backs here, and get our slippers on and put the ice cubes in our orange juice and everything, because we got your friend Sami here.
Hey,
he says great stream, friends. Anyone with less than $10,000 is best to throw it into PLS and hold for longer than 2.5 years. 10K can get to $1 million in PLS, but 10K won't get $1 million as a validator. And
Correct.
wise words there. Very cool. I appreciate Sami's videos. And
We're
some
corrupting
people,
him. He likes to stay neutral, but we're corrupting him. We
Look,
know you love
look,
us some.
He's a math
people-
guy. He gets it.
people like me, I don't think I could have held 10K to $1 million worth of HEX if I didn't have time locking. So that's another thing I want to plug there. Is Time Pays Me is going to be a way for some people to achieve that, and that'll be really cool. Maybe someday you'll be able to have wrapped Pulse that's earning validator fees, but also locked up. But if you lock up with the validator, that's another disadvantage in one sense, because I think you can withdraw almost at any time or any day.
Might take a few days.
Yeah, if you do go in that direction, then it'll you got to have diamond hands. So again, shout out to Sami for all of his great content, and this guy awesome. puts in like 16 hours a day making tweets and videos, and covers a lot of stuff in the Richard Hart ecosystem and abroad. So yes, very cool,
very entertaining, very knowledgeable.
I don't get all the inside jokes yet.
You got to keep watching, man.
The fluffy slippers, the straight back, the pointy elbows, the squeaky chair, the fluffy slippers.
I'm starting to catch on to some of it.
Yeah, he's funny, dude.
I'll watch the show. Can you tell, Sami? He stalks me too. I hear some of my quotes come back at me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's out there, talking the language of the traders. And, I think he's, now, mind you, he's old school, so we don't always agree on absolutely everything. But, he's definitely got a way where he's very entertaining. He can reach those traders in a way that, others can't. He explains things very clearly. He's speaks, about the long-term hold versus the quick trading scenarios, and he tries to spell cycles out for people and give them encouragement for the future. And I think he's doing a great job out there. So good on you, Mr. Sami.
Yeah. And discouraging people from doing paid groups where you're paying people ahead of time when they haven't shown you any proof. It's a great point too.
I've been laughing about a send me one ETH later thing. That's been fun.
Yeah,
too.
That's catchy.
Like, send me an ETH later. One friendship and one ETH later.
And another thing that was reported in the Twitter Spaces in the past week is Crypto 7, who I really like as well, and I've gone on his show once or twice, and he came on the HEX conference and all that. And I think he finally said what a lot of us were thinking when he was, saying, "Come on, launch it already! Come on!" And that's I think why there are so many people watching tonight, is because people are getting the feeling that we're close. Now, I haven't shared these tweets yet. I have notifications on Twitter turned on for only 3 accounts. It's Documenting HEX, Richard Hart, and MetaMask. And so Documenting HEX retweeted a couple things here where people are reporting. I don't know how big it is on the screen, but basically people who have been watching like a hawk GitLab or GitHub or some place where the code goes to become public with Pulse Chain. People noted that the Pulse Chain developer Brett had approved mainnet master list on GitLab. KDP reporting that he approved the merge for mainnet and GitLab. And can you guys help interpret what all this means?
Yes, the UPS guy has left with the package, and now you're waiting for it to show up on your door. Y'all got this? That's what it is.
Is it a new video game that's in the package?
Yes, and you've been waiting on it for a very, very long time, and it finally shipped. Now you got to wait for it to actually show up at your house.
But how long is the UPS truck going to run parallel?
You know,
with the
I don't
FedEx
know,
truck?
man. It could get caught in traffic. You know, they might turn over. The package
When
might go out
does-
back.
When
It might
does
have to
FedEx
to
go
Cheyenne.
east and
But
UPS
all I
go
know is the truck is on the road. Okay.
All I know is
The
that
tracking
something.
number,
It has
all the
something
tracking
to do with the snap fork. That's all.
I'll snap this guy with a fork.
I know.
Oh, snap fork. I'll get that. That's
Oh,
terrible.
my.
Terrible.
Well, people are gonna need to rest up too if it's not happening, you know, now. Do you guys have any final thoughts here?
Hey, man, the phone just
Pretty
went
good
off
stream.
and gave me a notification that the package is on the way. What is there to be bitching about? It's
Right.
coming.
It's coming.
It's
Yeah.
coming, guys.
No,
All
I agree.
right.
I agree.
Woohoo.
I order from Amazon once in a while. That happens. Sometimes the stuff comes the next day. Other times it comes next
Right.
week. I'm with John.
When you hear the drones overhead getting ready to give you the airdrop,
But
you
it's,
know.
but it's on the way.
And usually when I hit the expedite button, that's when it takes the longest.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, don't
But-
pay extra for the overnight shipping. It's already coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, man. I think we covered a lot of good stuff tonight, Maddie. Appreciate
Yeah.
you on as always.
Yeah, really glad to have all you guys on. And where can people find more of what you guys are doing?
I'm primarily. I'll go ahead, Crispy. You got more
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, usually I don't say anything at first, but hey, yeah, over on hexfire.io is the public site. You can check out the Patreon. I did a good tutorial over there if somebody's looking for quick hex data into Excel. Got that up and running. Otherwise, here on YouTube, hexfire.io.
Beautiful.
Toby.
I'll let Johnny go last. He's the most illustrious of our crew tonight. So I primarily Twitter. You know, it's like you can reach me on Telegram as well if you want to DM me or something, but I will never DM you first. But Twitter, I'm doing daily TA updates to kind of keep people from getting over exuberant or too terribly terrified with the volatility. So you can kind of see levels of support and resistance and, you know, buy the dips. This is what I'm always advocating, not financial advice at all. But kind of fun. I like playing with my pickup sticks, you know, and have my crazy line drawings. And it seems to be very popular with people. And then, of course, I'm on here with Maddie or try to be on every Tuesday. And then I've been popping up doing some TA stuff with Wake Up Hex on Thursday mornings. And occasionally anybody else that feels like talking to me, you know, it's like a Corey Costa and whoever. But it's been great being a part of this community. Love all you guys and happy to be along for the ride.
Oh, right here on Twitter under TCFX Studios. You see that? How I point that out? Okay. Yeah, my favorite game is blocking trolls. So please feel free to troll me. I will be happy to block you so I don't have to share any more of my information with you. So come along on Twitter, troll me really, really hard so I can just go ahead and get you out of the way. Thanks.
All right. And I'll be back on Thursday night for Hex Therapy Live. If Pulse Chain goes live, I think Crypto 7 is doing a special stream, and a number of other streamers will probably pop up and do their thing. Let's see, we've got
24-hour, I think, isn't he?
there have been a lot, you know, it's been a long time that we've been waiting, and so I think a lot of people have committed to doing a 24-hour stream. We'll see.
It's gonna be nuts.
We'll see who
Yeah.
does. And certainly
You got Bitcoin
understand.
Miami coming up, and you're doing a Hex show there.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
next week. May 18th to 20th, 70 hexagons will be in person, and we'll be doing a 48-hour live stream handing off for an hour each to different people in different groups. So stay tuned. I'm going to be messaging people about that in the next couple days. And yeah, until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and get ready for Pulse Chain. Peace out.
Adios. That was fun.